what's up, guys? Welcome back. It's been a long time no see. Back to the Joey Plays Games podcast, and we're here to review the new DC Slate after James Gunn has taken the helm, and we're back. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you for the intro, Ronnie. That was great.
Welcome,
so, hey, guys. This is the Joey Plays Games podcast. We've obviously taken a very long break. We'll be bringing it back a little bit more. Obviously, I've been doing more short stuff, so I'm going to keep the shorts rolling. The shorts are going to stay, but the podcast will become more of a special kind of, bi-weekly, monthly kind of thing instead of every week.
Whenever we got something to talk about.
Exactly. So today we got some big news to talk about. James Gunn, co-CEO of DC Studios, dropped the first phase, or part of the first phase for his new slate of films and shows. And we're going to get into it. I know what he's dropped, and I know all the information so far, so as to best plan the show, but Ronnie does not. So what we're going to do, in case you guys don't know either, we're going to play a video for you that James Gunn has. Not this doc. We'll switch it in just a second. I'm a little slow. So here we go. Let me make sure.
Are you going to get copyrighted for this?
Maybe, but I don't particularly care. Nope, that's not the button I wanted to use. There we go. And here. Make sure you get all of James's beautiful white hair in there. All right. So we all ready? Cool.
Yep.
Hey, everybody. I'm James Gunn. I'm the co-CEO of DC Studios. So as many of you know, DC has been disconnected in film and television for a long time. And it's one of, our jobs,
like
mine and Peter's, is to come in and make sure the DCU is connected in film, television, gaming, and animation. That the characters are consistent, played by the same actors, and it works within one story. And if something is outside of that, like Matt Reeves' Batman or Todd Phillips' Joker or Teen Titans Go, that it is clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds, outside of the mainstream DCU continuity. Now, Peter and I have gotten pretty lucky in terms of the 4 projects that are coming out over the next year. First, we have Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Shazam has always been off kind of in his own part of the DCU, so he connects very well. That moves directly into The Flash, a fantastic movie that I really love that resets the entire DC universe. And then to move into Blue Beetle, a fantastic film about a kid who's a marvelous part of the DCU, and then into Aquaman 2, which leads directly into our next few projects, which I'm going to tell you about now. So, Peter and I, along with a group of very talented writers, have started to map out an 8 to 10 year plan of what DC Studios will be in film, television, and gaming. This first chapter is called Gods and Monsters. Now, what I'm about to tell you is a part of the first chapter. It's not the entire first chapter. The first project is Creature Commandos. Creature Commandos is an animated series.
Is that Weasel?
That is Weasel.
Something we're going to do that's a little bit different at DC is we're going to have characters move into
Rick
animation, out of animation, usually having the same actor play their voice as who plays them in live action. The next project up is Waller. This is a story of Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis. Viola Davis is going to team up with members of Team Peacemaker, and this is a story that's been created by Crystal Henry, who did Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver, who created the Doom Patrol. It is a fantastic story that's out of this world, and I can't wait for people to see it. Okay, next up is the big one, the true beginning of the DCU. This is called Superman Legacy. This is being written by me. I'm in the middle of it. I'm having a great time doing it. And Superman will be released into theaters July 11th, 2025. Okay, the next thing is a big premiere HBO television series called Lanterns. This is a story of a couple of Green Lanterns, John Stewart and Hal Jordan, and we have a few other Lanterns peppered in there, but this is really a terrestrial-based TV show, which is almost like True Detective with a couple of Green Lanterns who are space cops watching over precincts.
I think
it's going to work.
Terrifying mystery that ties into our larger story of the DC.
Because of that.
Next is a big movie called The Authority. The Authority is a passion project of mine. It's based on the marvelous Wildstorm characters we are now bringing into the DCU and will interact with all of our primary DCU characters. The Authority are a group of superheroes who think the world is broken and they want to fix it by any means necessary. I think it's a very different look at superheroes. We're doing a television series called Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost is the story of Paradise Island, usually known as Themyscira, which is the birthplace of Wonder Woman. It's almost like Game of Thrones with Westeros, but with all of the inhabitants of Paradise Island. The introduction of the DCU's Batman is The Brave and the Bold. The Brave and the Bold is the story of Batman and his actual son, Damian Wayne. This is based on Grant Morrison's great
that's actually interesting.
Run. Damian Wayne is my favorite Robin. He's a little assassin who Batman tries to get in line, and so this is the story of the two of them and the beginning of sort of the Bat family in the DCU. Next up is a TV series called Booster Gold. Booster Gold is one of comics' really popular cult heroes. He is a fascinating guy. He's a loser from the future who uses future technology to come back to present day and become a superhero so that people will love him. It is basically the superhero story of imposter syndrome on an HBO Max series. One of my favorite comic book series from last year was Tom King's run on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
Not entirely.
So we're going to turn that into a big science fiction epic film. Now, Superman is a guy who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents, whereas Supergirl in this story, she is a character who was raised on a chunk of Krypton. She watched everybody around her perish in some terrible way, so she's a much more jaded character. And that brings me to Swamp Thing, the last thing we're going to talk about, a very dark horror story in the origins of the monster who is Swamp Thing. And although it's totally outside of the rest of the DCU, it will still feed into the rest of the stories. Anyway, those are the stories that I can tell you about right now. I've loved the DC characters since I was a child. They're incredibly important to me. I knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do something very different. One of the things that's very important for me in all of these movies and TV series is that the director's vision and the vision of the writers and all of the creators is unique and something special. Storytelling is always king. That's all that matters to us. And I want to be true to those stories. I want to be true to you guys and really give you something different than you've ever seen before. Anyway, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you watching. I hope this was exciting for you because it's really exciting for me. And I can't wait to start to dive into these stories with you guys on this grand adventure. Thank you so much.
All right, so that's that. So what'd you think? Your first reactions? This is the first time you're hearing about it.
Dude, I'm like interested and I don't know. I'm just curious, I guess. I don't know. It's nice to have a brand new fresh start with some direction because, like, you know, this feels very more like planned out than like what we had before. But I guess I'm just interested because he's putting a lot of, I guess, in a way, no names, you know? Yeah. And I'm just wondering what he'll do with them or like how, if those are just like one-off things just to like, or like if maybe obviously it'll wrap around kind of, I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't know. But I am really curious and I really do hope that it is going in the right direction. I like that we got a Superman thing, we got a Batman thing, and we got some kind of Wonder Woman thing with the story. Green Lantern. So he's kind of building up the Justice League in a sense, but in a very different way than I would expect. The Booster Gold is a series, right? So the 5 movies we got is Brave and the Bold, Superman Legacy, The Authority, whatever that is. What was the other one?
Swamp Thing.
The Swamp Thing and the Superwoman, right?
Supergirl.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm really interested in, real quick, one thing that kind of took my eye, I'm really interested in the Creature Commandos, just because, like, I don't think we've ever had an animated thing that's, like, into this kind of stuff. So,
no, definitely
I'm just very curious as to, I'm just very curious as to where that goes.
Okay. All right, well, let's go through this project by project. There's a little bit more information in some of the reports that have come out about it than more than just that 6-minute video. So let's start with Superman Legacy. This is the only one that has a date on it. It is going to be releasing the same year as the Batman Part 2, though. That was also announced today. That'll be releasing October 3rd, 2025. So this, he seems to be kind of framing it as it, very similar to what Matt Reeves did with the Batman, that it's its own universe, or it's going to be kind of year 1.5 kind of thing, where it's not, this isn't an origin story per se, but it's going to be exploring some of those early days kind of mishaps
knowing what
that
it
can happen
means
within
to
that
be
character.
Superman.
Exactly. He's currently writing the project. His co-CEO is hoping that he will eventually direct it, but that's not confirmed at the moment. He also he talked more about Henry Cavill a little bit outside of this, and he said that, Cavill obviously didn't have a contract signed to reappear in anything, and the story he's writing is not really a story that would work with that Cavill Superman. And that could just be because Zach already had a little bit of that background in those early years kind of there in canon, so this would be a chance to start fresh, and if you're starting fresh, why not put a new face in there? So
yeah, makes sense.
He also noted,
go, but...
yeah, but you never know.
Nah.
You get to Elseworlds,
course.
you get to Infinite Crisis. There's always room for him to come back, and I'm sure if they ask him nicely and in a fair way, that there's always a chance Henry Cavill.
Dude, I just feel really bad for him, just because how many times are you gonna play with this guy's heart? I don't know.
Yeah, but I think he'll be good. He's doing his own show over at Amazon. He's finishing up Witcher. I think he really wants to be in the run for Bond, so it'll give him room. He's got.
I'd love to see him as Bond.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of Henry Cavill will be good. He'll be good. They also did confirm that J.J. Abrams' Ta-Nehisi Coates' written Superman film is still in development and would exist in the new branch of Elseworlds stories. So I think this is kind of cool. He sounds like he's almost done writing with it. Earlier in these set of articles, they talk about how they're close to contracts with a lot of these early projects, directors and writers. So I think this should pretty much hit July 11th, 2025, because we're coming up on 2.5 years. It usually takes them between 6 to 9 months to film, and somewhere around that same time to edit and do VFX. So I think this one's gonna hit, and I think it'll be interesting. Gunn's writing style can be hit or miss for me, but I think Peacemaker and Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special they worked for me, and I'm looking forward to Guardians 3. So I'm interested to see what he can do, because he definitely seems to get the bright side of Superman and how important that is to the character.
Yeah. I feel like one thing that Gunn excels at is really kind of making those comic book movies feel like a comic book movie. I don't know if that makes sense, but it feels much more animated, though it's like live action. I don't know, it's just the energy there.
It feels bright. There's a lot of energy to it. It feels like a comic panel come to life. Like you've had this artist that has brought all these different colors and is trying to balance all of them on the screen instead of the color palette just looks totally different. So I'm excited for that. Any final thoughts before we move on to The Authority?
For Superman Legacy, okay, well, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to talk about this later or if I should talk about it now. But I guess one thing I'm curious about is he kind of loosely in the video explained, I guess, the whole continuity stuff. Like Flash is going to reset everything, but then we have Aquaman and I forget what else after Flash. Or Blue Beetle. I'm curious about what the hell is going to happen with Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
Or is that just going to be a whole Elseworld thing? I don't know, but I guess I'm just curious as to what lies in store for all those that come after Flash. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll get into that at the end, because I think there are some comments that I want to bring up and talk about that, because he seems to hint at a canon, but I can't tell if you're resetting everything, because I think the further you get into this, when you talk about Brave and the Bold, is that what Batman are you using for that? It's obviously not going to be Reeves' Batman, but if you're bringing Keaton back in the Flash, does Keaton then stay as your main Batman, or is what does that exactly look like?
I'm like, hell no, we're not keeping Keaton. If we're getting the young Superman, I'm not having.
No, I know. No, I don't think that's going to be the case, but the way that they then have talked about, a possible Aquaman 3, possible keeping Flash actors, that it makes it a little more ambiguous what exactly the canon is. But I think it seems pretty clear that they're going to use the Flash as a soft reset point. It's just how soft or how hard of a reset point is there.
Yeah, I want a hard reset. I don't care.
But I don't think that's what we're getting.
Let the past die.
No, I would say that would probably be the best way to go. But I think when you've got casting as like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Jason as Aquaman, from what James has said in this movie or in the video and in other things about the Flash being this kind of one of the greatest superhero movies he's ever seen, that
really,
I think there's a chance that some of the, and with Waller being Viola Davis still, there's some overlap, and I don't think he's going to want to get rid of Peacemaker either. You don't get rid of Margot Robbie like that.
No, I agree.
I think there are going to be some things that are going to transition and some that won't. And the some that won't is because you're going to use the Flash's reset as an opportunity to tell a new story that's going to be different from the old canon.
Just really interesting to see what because that's fair. That's what they do in the comics, in the not MCU, but like in the Marvel comics, they had the whole kind of like a reset with the whole Doom world and stuff, and that's how you brought Miles to the current continuity. Same goes with DC and their Infinite Crisis. They had a sort of similar thing right now with like the metal, like the something metals, dark metals,
Knight's Metal or something.
Night metals, that changed stuff, but then it kept older stuff. Like it's common. They do it often. But I guess I'm just curious because we've never seen something like that actually happen in, I guess, film,
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be interesting. And I think they're still playing cagey with it because they don't want to make firm decisions yet. But with, Henry not coming back, The Rock not coming back either immediately or at all, that it seems like they're going to pick the people they want to work with. And I think looking at Gunn's background in the DC universe, him doing Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, I think some of those characters will transition. I think Peter Safran being the producer on Shazam 1 and 2, Aquaman 1 and 2, as well as Blue Beetle, that kind of lends itself to some of those characters are going to transition. Granted, we don't know if all of them will, or obviously Jason Momoa has already been kind of talking that he may be playing more than one character. So that's still a wait and see at this point, but I think today muddles it more than makes it clear.
Yeah.
So
I just want to jump to 2030 and see what the fuck we have by then.
You never
I'm just
know.
Curious.
They do seem to be wanting to carry a 2-show cadence per year. So I'm interested to see how that turns out. I don't think either of us are familiar with The Authority, right?
My fuck no, Joe. I forget. Are we allowed to curse?
Yeah, you go
ahead.
You
can bleep it out.
I don't know. I'm not gonna bleep it, but we're good.
Okay. Yeah. No, I don't. I forget. I don't know who The Authority is.
So
we got an eternal
Wildstorm,
situation going on here.
An independent entity under DC Comics from 1992. So I think they're the Wildstorm characters were folded into continuity with New 52. And they're just going to do the same. So I don't know any of these characters. The thing that intrigues me the most about this is the end of this. One of the last few quotes here is, "It's just a story of heroes and villains, it isn't just a story of heroes and villains, and not every movie and TV show is going to be about good guy versus bad guy." Gunn said, "These are people that are very questionable, like the Authority, who basically believe that you can't fix the world in an easy manner, and they take things into their own hands." Safran added, "They're kind of like Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men. They know that you want them on the wall, or at least they believe that." Gunn said the film is being written now, but declined to say who is the screenwriter. The reference to A Few Good Men intrigues me because that's the way that movie in particular works is fascinating because that's the military industrial complex that it's taking shots at, but this is kind of a different avenue. And I think it can be very relevant to today's society and culture thematically.
Yeah, we got The Boys, the movie. I'm playing, but I'm no. I actually one thing I failed to mention is that the one thing that I am really interested in this new slate is that it does feel so fresh. Like I feel like none of these projects have people talk a lot often about the MCU. I guess MCU-fication about like movies where it's like they got similar jokes or similar tones, and they kind of all feel like a hodgepodge of the same thing. And like that's not true to some extent. You know, there are MCU projects that feel distinctly different. There is that little taste that you can always get in an MCU movie, knowing that it is, or project in general. And I guess one thing that I'm interested in this is that there's a brand new wave of superhero movies, new taste, new feeling. And I guess it's just cool to be able to have that. I guess the variation of picking and choosing what kind of tone you want with a movie. And I feel like James Gunn isn't afraid to explore that with his projects. So I'll be really interested to see that. Like, and I think this is a good example of that. The Authority, like based off what they just said about the movie.
For sure. This definitely seems to be like adding a new flavor to comic book filmmaking and storytelling. So I'm pretty excited. But yeah, I don't think either of us have anything more to say on Authority. So let's move on to The Brave and the Bold, which you and I are definitely going to have something to say about this. So where are you at with this? I'm kind of excited. Dude, we're going to get two Batman at the same time.
Curious. I feel like I'm curious in the sense of what that means for the Bat family. Are we going with an established Bat family? Yeah, or is Damian just going to be the first one? I don't know.
Yeah, that would be my thing, is that I would predict that it's established and you're going to drop in similar to how the Superman movie seems to be dropping you into a couple years into his role, that maybe I don't know how many Robins he would have had. I would guess you've had at least Nightwing. And then you could flip Tim or Jason, Batgirl. I don't know, but I think the dynamic of Bruce and Damian has always worked better with a fuller Bat family. But it'll be interesting to see which way they go. I do like how they he shouted out in the press releases and stuff that Grant Morrison's run is kind of where that character got introduced and was really influential on the current DCU run. So I'm going to be picking up a bunch of Morrison stuff in the near future, so I can kind of get myself ready and anticipated for this. But they also shouted out Tom King, who was in the DCU writers' room, who also had a lot of inspiration on Bat family stuff in recent years with his two-year run. So I love Tom King's stuff. I've read all of his Batman run, and that was freaking awesome. He does Batman and Catwoman really well, so I'm intrigued to see if this also includes another Catwoman, that maybe you're going to get that dynamic with that relationship already pre-existing, and then Talia comes back into his life kind of thing. But I don't know. I'm pretty excited that we're getting a confirmed Robin, because this takes the pressure off Matt Reeves to do his own Bat family. For me, that it'd be like if Reeves just wants to let Robert Pattinson's Batman just be himself and he's the only one in that world, that's cool with me, because I've been waiting for a Robin to come on the silver screen again. Yeah. But if this is the canon version and that's Elseworlds, you know, I'll take them both.
I think I'm just excited to have a Batman and Robin movie, period. I feel like the last one we had was the one with George Clooney, right?
Yeah, that's what it says. This will be the first time since 1997.
And that shit was no, I'm playing. I mean,
it's a special movie. It's a sign of the times. It's a sign of who made it. But this will definitely be different. And I
guess I'm excited because it's Damian, dude. I would have never. That's the last person I would have.
That's the last one I would think to start with. Is the other thing. People would always say that it would be Nightwing, and it's nope. Yeah. We're gonna start with Damian. So that's pretty cool.
I guess in a cool sense though, it makes you like not skip, but you can just cut, because everyone loves Nightwing. Everyone wanted a Nightwing project, but you can't really get there if you start him so young, so early on. So I guess it opens the door for a lot of individual, like a Nightwing movie or like a Red Hood movie, like under the Red Hood or something like that, adaptation. And I think that's what I'm excited for. The fact that now, because we're starting so late in the Bat family, we get to retroactively, or not even retroactively, we could just do these stories as they come, in the timeline as it goes, with these characters that are already established, and we just get to look into their backstory as much as we need to and just see the story flesh out, which I'm excited for. So,
no, yeah, for sure. This is probably the one project that was announced today that feels like a lock for me, just because of the characters and the potential that it has. Obviously, there are a lot of other ones that were announced today that I'm super excited for. But as a huge Batman fan, like this
number one, Joe.
This is gonna be sick. So I'm excited. I think
it's also hyped there because I feel like this is a story we've never seen before. Like, this is not a Batman origin.
The fact that the Bat family has not been put on the screen in any functional way that resembles the comics means that there is so much material that is rife for them to pull from, and so many. The dynamics are why people love the Bat family. That's why the Bat family has become so prevalent in comics in recent years. That like Bruce was always cool for a while, but then the fact that you introduce this pseudo family that they all become, and the backstories and the relationships that they all have, it's going to be special to see this on screen. Yeah. I'm excited, especially if Tom King was in the writer's room, throwing ideas at the wall. Maybe Tom King is writing this. This is going to be dope. I'm excited.
No, yeah, I'm excited too. I feel like I think I trust on the project. I trust Gunn enough that this can be pulled off, especially with someone like Damian. So. For sure. I'm just really interested. No, this is definitely even beats the cake for some, I guess, MC. If you want to play the comparing game, I guess some MCU stuff that's on the way. Like, this is easily up there.
Yeah, I mean, but you and I have always said that, like, DC is always where our heart will be, but the MCU has earned our respect and earned our fandom and our love. That's why we anticipate those things. But this is always, the second something's announced in our neighborhood, like, this is what it takes all attention. So let's move on to the fourth film to talk about, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. It's based on King's comic run from the same title, same title from 21 to 22. It sounds like this is not going to be a Kara that landed on Earth and, had Mom Pa Kent. This sounds very much like she is going to be, maybe by the end of the film she will be on Earth, but till then, we're gonna get a pretty damaged Supergirl, and I've heard a lot of things about that comic run that I'm excited that it's getting. It sounds like it's getting straight up adapted. So and getting. I
think you're forgetting something very important, Joe, that I just saw. We get Krypto the Superdog.
Well, the run involved Krypto. I don't know if that means that. The movie itself will involve Krypto, but I think it could. I think
they should.
Krypto's a way of bringing some levity to something, so that if it sounds like if she's that hardcore, you're gonna need something for the audience to balance it out.
Bring you back to Earth.
But it's gonna be a sci-fi, fantasy, epic, badass woman superhero led movie. Like I'm in. I'm in.
I need a live action DC Super Pets. Have you ever watched that movie, Joe?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I did. So.
Is it good?
Oh, it was a fun time. It was pretty funny. Yeah, it had some funny. I watched it for the first time in Spanish, but it was pretty funny. Yeah. No, it was, but yeah, no. I don't know why. I actually really do unironically really want. Like I said it as a joke at first, but I actually really do want Krypto to the.
No, back to the one that we just talked about with the Brave and the Bold. I think you could get Bat Cow in that movie.
Oh yeah, I would love Bat Cow.
Like I think eventually some stuff like that is going to happen. I don't know. There's a lot of potential with what's been announced. I'm very excited for. I feel like that kind of stuff, like Bat Cow or Krypto. I think in the Gunn movies, he does a good job at bringing humanity to I guess creatures or characters you wouldn't see a lot of humanity in. Kind of like Starro in some extent, right? Like Starro's this big alien creature, but you kind of feel a little bit bad for him when you see he's being maltreated by the U.S. government and stuff like that. And so I guess it'd be really interesting if he can pull that off with things like Bat Cow or Krypto, kind of like the more silly, goofy stuff, but in a way still bring it home and I guess tug on the strings like they do in the comics. So yeah.
But yeah, no. I my prediction, just to throw it out there, I'm like Lobo's gonna be the villain in Supergirl. That'd be really
cool. Supergirl, I think he's gonna be the villain in Superman.
Really? I want him to be the villain in Supergirl, have her go apeshit, and then Superman bring her down to Earth. And I don't want him to die.
I think her story in Supergirl, from my understanding, is that she's Krypton dies, and then she eventually floats her way to a yellow sun, and then starts going through and saving, almost like what Captain Marvel is in the MCU movies as of right now, that it's she's going out and solving space level problems or space level things that introduces us to that galactic element in this universe. That I think that's the play, but
gotcha.
Because I think especially if you maybe Lobo's in both, that maybe you introduce the way you introduce him in the first in Superman Legacy, that maybe he's, a couple years later, that's where he's popping up in Woman of Tomorrow, and that's how you get that dynamic. Because I don't think we're going to be killing a lot of characters anymore. I think you're going to be getting a lot of mainstays that are going to continue throughout.
No, I don't want Lobo to die. I want it to have Lobo can't really die.
Yeah, I mean he just regenerates, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm just interested, but yeah, I think this would be number 3 that I'm interested in, just because I wonder how they do this with Supergirl and how they describe her.
Yeah, it's definitely very high up there for me as well. All right, so let's move on to the last film before we get into the television side of things. Swamp Thing. So I have not read a lot of Swamp Thing, but Swamp Thing is a character that is beloved by many. He's been in some animated projects recently, and that's how I've kind of gotten to know him. But
Which animated project? Harley Quinn.
Yeah, Harley Quinn. He was in Harley Quinn, and I don't know. He seems dope.
That's very true to character in Harley Quinn.
Well, in Harley Quinn, they use him kind of similar to how this says, is that this is a much more horrific film, but we'll have Swamp Thing interact with the other characters. In Harley Quinn, they use him as a bit of he's this very serious character, but the way he's bouncing off with all these other wacky zany characters, that's where the fun of interaction comes from. I mean, we've seen their panels of him and Batman of talking with each other, and Swamp Thing is a character that's going to be adapted very well, in my opinion.
I can imagine.
So
no, yeah, I'm excited. I like Swamp Thing a lot, so I'm very curious as to what they do with him.
All right. Well, let's segue into television. Television seems to be where a lot of the more canon questions come from. So we're going to start with Creature Commandos. It's the first HBO Max animated series. It's greenlit. It's already in production. It's going to be taking place in 1980. It'll feature Frankenstein's monster teaming up with a werewolf, a vampire, and a Gorgon to fight Nazis in World War II. That was the original thing in 1980. Gunn's version will not be taking the same approach. Weasel from the 2021 Suicide Squad film is one of the commandos, along with Rick Flag's father, Rick Flag Sr. During this announcement, Gunn says that the actors cast to voice the characters on the show will also play the roles in live action later on when the characters reappear. So this something, again, I have no idea about. The fact that Weasel's in there and Rick Flag Sr.'s in there.
It's the prequel.
It seems like it's it's like a very far in the past prequel to Gunn's version of Suicide Squad, which I'm kind of excited for, because his Suicide Squad is something special.
Yeah. Actually, wait. Remind me. Weasel does survive, right? At the end, they show him washing on the beach.
That's the end credit scene.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like, no. Sorry to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. No, but what's it called? Actually, now I'm taking back my prequel comments, because I could see this being something set in the present. Like, Rick Flag Sr. is still alive. Like, who said that he has to be young?
Could be.
Yeah, I'm very interested. One thing I am curious about is the whole, the voice actors being on the left screen, because that means we'll see them eventually on the left screen. I'm very curious as to what that's going to look like. Where they would even
fit that would make more sense for it being a present day thing.
Yeah, but interesting. Yeah, I'm down for it.
No, yeah, this seems really cool. The fact that it's going to be around the corner makes me think it's going to fill that kind of gap that seems to be in 2024. Obviously, we have 4 projects coming out this year with 4 films, no shows outside of some of the animated stuff.
We have 4 this year?
Yeah. Flash, Shazam 2, Aquaman 2, Blue Beetle. All confirmed for 2023. Yes.
Really? Why did I think some of them bled into 2024? I thought Aquaman 2 was.
Remember, half of them got delayed from last year. So yeah, Shazam was supposed to be December last year. Flash was supposed to be, I think, October. The 2 that were supposed to be this year were Aquaman and Blue Beetle, if I'm not mistaken. So we're gonna have a jam-packed year. I think next year will be a little lighter, but I think that's due where you see Colin Farrell's The Penguin, if that doesn't sneak into the end of this year. But 2024 would then see Joker 2, probably Creature Commandos, as this is talking about, and I'm presuming if Waller is written, which it sounds like from this report, that would then be able to start relatively soon and then get into on the production side of things. So, man, my mouse went out again, and it's making it so hard to switch tabs. But actually, now it's back. So, okay.
Okay, quick question. So, Creature Command is going to be the first of this new slate?
It sounds like it's going to be the first. Yeah, I mean, that's what they started the video with. So I would imagine that's the first thing.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, so in the description for Waller, it's going to be essentially Peacemaker 1.5. Season 2 of Peacemaker has been put on hold. Viola Davis will appear alongside as a continuation of some of the cast from Peacemaker Season 1. It was written by Crystal Henry, who was part of the DCU's writer room, and will be executive produced by Jeremy Carver, who created the DC series Doom Patrol, which was recently canceled.
I heard that's good, though.
No, I know. Like that, everybody on my Twitter that watches it freaking loves that show. It's wacky and zany. I watched half of season 1 when it was still on the old DC Universe app.
I remember when you had that.
Yeah. So
go back.
I'm looking forward to this. Nick and I have been talking about how you switch from this current DC canon to next canon, and we've always said Flash, but then the way they've been talking about Flash up till this point, it seems like it was just going to be a kind of a soft reset with just some character switching, like Affleck and Keaton, or whatever. But maybe I've always thought that maybe Peacemaker season 2 or Waller would kind of be this kind of segue point where maybe they undergo a threat, and then that's how it transitions. But I don't know. So, but I'm excited. If we're keeping Viola Davis, it's a good thing in my book. Viola Davis kills it as Amanda Waller. She's awesome, and
I agree. Probably one of the best castings.
Yeah, one of the best castings in DC for sure. Gunn says, quote, "It's just the greatest show ever" about this. So I'm presuming that it's pretty far along in the writing process.
Greatest show ever. That's a big candle to hold, Joe.
Well, James Gunn Gunn says this about everything James Gunn does. So this is going to be my best movie ever. Is it going to be my best movie? What does that mean for the last movie, though, James?
Yeah, I mean, he just keeps going up.
True. It says both Creature Commandos and Waller are expected to debut before Superman Legacy, and Safran called them the aperitif for the DCU. And an aperitif is something that is an alcoholic beverage that is designed to induce appetite. So if these two things are kind of what's going to be popping off as the start of the new thing, and it's going to get us all excited for it, I'm game. And that means we're seeing it probably as early as late next year. So I think we're in for a good freaking time.
I'm excited.
And then we've got Lanterns is the next project.
This is the one where I'm like, what the frick are they going to do with this one?
I'm excited for this because they framed it as True Detective. And I don't know if you've watched any of True Detective. I've watched all of season 1. I got part of the way through season 3 and then fell off because of schoolwork. But it's an anthology detective story where, some vicious, messed up crime happens, and then these two cops kind of go together and are, interviewing people, they're investigating, all that kind of stuff. So I think you're pairing two Lanterns that everybody really wants to be together, Hal and John. That's kind of what everybody's been asking for a long time, a buddy cop between the two of them.
Okay, if that's what this is, then I'm down. You just made it way more clear to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's described as a huge HBO quality event, so I'm in. So
I feel like you could plant a lot of seeds with this show.
That's what I was about ready to get into. In a little bit in the video, but I know I've seen it in some of the other reports, is that the mystery that they are investigating in this, Safran is quoted as saying, "It plays a really big role leading into the main story that we're telling across our film and television." So the fact that this is going to play very important, maybe mid 2025, early 2026 as a show, this is going to be exciting for sure. and they're describing it as
right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Right now, I'm just envisioning it all, and I think now the picture's getting clear to me, and I actually am getting very excited.
Yeah, I was like, the more we talk about this and some of the additional information that's not in the 6-minute video, you're gonna by the end of this podcast, you are gonna be sold.
I think it's also the fact that it's like I'm being reminded that this is HBO Max money. Like
this is where we're getting Last of Us right now. What we've gotten with House of the Dragon, what we're gonna get with some of the other projects in the future. With Matt Reeves' The Penguin show that's coming out soon. This is gonna be where our 3/4 or half a year is gonna be spent watching 16 weeks of DC quality television on HBO or whatever service it's going to exist at that point, and it's going to be
whatever service.
Well, they've talked about merging it with Discovery.
Joey's not looking too bright.
No, I mean it could stay. I'm just saying the name may change.
Yeah.
All right, and then we got 2 shows left.
I'm very excited.
Paradise Lost. It's a Game of Thrones-ish style story set on the island of Themyscira before the birth of Diana. It's about political intrigue behind a society of all women. Gunn adds, how did that come true? What's the origin of the island of women? What is the beautiful truths and the ugly truths behind all of that? What's it like scheming between the different power players? The provocative title recalls the comic series Paradise Island Lost, authored by Phil Jimenez and George Perez, which followed a civil war on Themyscira. Wonder Woman was heavily involved in that in particular, but will not be in the show.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Because what we saw, I guess, in the little presentation, I wasn't sure if she would be in this. They didn't make it sound like she was, and I guess now there's a confirm here, but I don't know. I feel like in a weird way this is exciting, but also not. I haven't watched a lot of Game of Thrones, so I don't know how good it is. But if it is to that level and people do have an interest in that kind of storytelling, then I'm down to check out what this is. But I think as of now, weirdly enough, it might be on my bottom of the barrel of
No, yeah, this is definitely on the bottom barrel solely because Wonder Woman's not involved for me. But I think from the list of shows, I think this would probably be. I don't know where this would sit.
Number 5.
In my head, it's like 4 or 5, and then I'm trying to figure out what I would put below it. What am I least excited for?
I'm not putting Booster Gold under it. I'm not putting Waller under it. I'm not putting.
No, I know that's what I'm thinking of. I guess this would be my bottom.
Yeah, I'm it's between this and the Authority, but even the Authority has some intrigue with the way they describe it. So I'm like.
Yeah. So, but this one I'm excited for because comparing it to Game of Thrones and being like, this is kind of what we want it to be, and the political intrigue involved behind that and alliances and stuff like that, that's cool. And if you put it, I think there's some dynamics there that are cool, depending on how you involve the mythological element of the gods that kind of were behind the creation of Themyscira and Paradise Island. I think there's some dynamics that are going to be pretty cool for this to watch. I think it would end on a doorstep of Wonder Woman being introduced.
No. I'm pretty sure that's how it's gonna be played out.
So I mean, it sounds like a 1 season thing with characters would then carry over into the eventual whatever Wonder Woman thing is, and I think it's a cool way to kind of set that up and set up more of the mythological elements that kind of fell by the wayside in Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984.
Sounds good. I agree. I don't know, that stuff seems cool. Yeah.
And then we got the last show that was announced was Booster Gold. You know more about Booster Gold than I do, from my understanding.
Really? You think so?
I've seen his appearances in animation. That's about it. I've never read any comics. He seems to be this quirky character that's kind of fun, but outside of that, I have nothing.
I feel like, okay, from what I know about him, a lot of the stuff I remember is back then, at least. I haven't read up on him in a minute, but the Ted Core stuff, that'd be interesting, seeing if they bring him in with the old Blue Beetle. But also, I think it's just a story about finding your character, because I think Booster Gold is a lot of that showmanship of what it means to be a hero or play the role of being a hero, and I feel like, at least in his comics, from what I remember back then. So I think it'd be really interesting that they play into that instead, because I know they could always go the whole make it a wacky, zany kind of just fun and all. But I think in a sense that didn't Peacemaker, because I haven't finished it, but didn't that have to do with also kind of going into his past of like what his whole like mantra means to him and like what that takes away from him and how he
a little bit
stuff like that.
Yeah, but
right. Okay.
Peacemaker is like a disillusioned superhero, similar to kind of what they frame as the agents here. I'm brain farting. The Authority. Gunn is talking about this. He's quoted as saying, basically, Booster Gold is imposter syndrome as a superhero.
No, yeah.
So
I'd be very curious as to if they pull it off. I guess
I think
more the emotional beats that Booster Gold have.
Yeah.
No, yeah, Sam. I'm interested just because it's the character. His concept is interesting because he is from the future. So a lot of the times when they do use him, they use him in a way as like a MacGuffin to like be like, oh, in the future, this is what happened in my future, blah blah blah. And so I'm interested to see what they do with that. I guess how they bring his character in, if they tie Ted Core or the Blue Beetle to it some way. I don't know. It's interesting, but I like the character. I like when people use him right, and I feel like he's so seldom used that being used in a project like this is interesting. I don't know. Just a project just about him. I don't know. It seems like a fun time. But again, probably definitely around my least anticipated.
It would be on the bottom. I think Lanterns for me would be top 1. Then you've got Waller 2. Creature Commandos and Booster Gold would probably be the ones that would flip for 3 and 4.
Yeah.
All right.
Before we finish this segment, do we want to rank what we think these are going to be? And then 10 years down the line, we can go back and be like, hey, this is what our new ranking is. You think that'd be fun?
Yeah, we can. We can do a little time capsule action. All right. So let's go back to the movies. We'll go top 5 starting there. You got Superman Legacy, The Authority, Brave and the Bold, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and Swamp Thing.
I'm like, what's your number 1, Joe? It's unpredictable. What is it? No play. My number 1's easily the Batman, Brave and the Bold. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
No shame in hiding.
I think that's 1 for me. I would go Brave and the Bold 1, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow 2, Superman Legacy 3, Swamp Thing 4, Authority 5.
I agree. For the movies, I agree.
And then I already gave my television list. You want to throw your
television list? I'm going Lanterns, Creature Commandos, just because it's animated. I'm very curious to see what they do with that. Waller, Booster Gold, and Themyscira, or the Lost Paradise, right? I think if we're meshing the two,
Paradise Lost.
Paradise Lost. If we're meshing the 2 shows and movies, I think I don't start creeping into shows until putting maybe Lanterns at like 4. Like right before Swamp Thing.
I'd put Lanterns at 4.
Right above Swamp Thing. Yeah.
And then I'd probably put Waller at 5. Swamp Thing at 6. Creature Commandos 7. Booster Gold. I'm missing 1.
Authority.
Authority's down at the bottom. Authority and Paradise Lost could switch for me.
Easy.
For 9 and 10.
Same.
It sounds cool, and I have faith that it'll be good, but it's not one that I'm sitting here going, this is what I'm like looking for updates on constantly.
Okay. I'm going 4 Lanterns, 5 Swamp Thing, 6 Creature Commandos, 7 Waller, 8 Authority, 9 Booster Gold, 10 Lost Paradise. There we go.
Okay. All right, we got a couple other things I want to get to before we get out of here. The first thing I want to talk about is Elseworlds. So they have officially branded non-canon stories as Elseworlds. They did this by. I mean, this was a long time coming. It was just a question of if it was going to be the DC Elseworlds tag, or they were going to use Black Label, or they were going to come up with something else.
I'm fucking with Elseworlds. I loved Elseworlds in the comics. So I'm just glad
it's a good title. It makes me excited that we're going to get other Elseworlds stories that he's going to produce.
100%.
So, this one was paired with the Batman 2 announcement that we talked about earlier, October 3rd, 2025. No updates on plot synopsis. I think Matt Reeves and Matt Thompson are
Battinson.
No, that's a kind of funny guy. But I follow him on Twitter, and it's Matt something, and I can't remember what they're both Matt. But this was also paired with talking about Joker, Folie à Deux as being Elseworlds. The Teen Titans Go ongoing animated series will be included in that. The J.J. Abrams produced Superman movie also considered in that. It's still considered in active development. Then you also, I would presume this is talking about the Constantine 2 as well, if that gets off the ground, or any other stories that would be continuing of something else. So,
interesting.
But
so you're telling me that we can get Robin from Teen Titans Go and Matt Reeves is the Batman?
We may get 3 Robins at the same time. We may not have enough Robins in our life.
Jeez, I'm excited. I don't know. I think the best part of this is just that we finally have, I guess, a direction or like a label for all this stuff.
The biggest thing is a direction. I feel like there's, as long as there's a plan behind the scenes, that's super cool to me.
No, yeah, because then it's like, okay, cool, we can have these cool little one-offs with Elseworlds, and I love that because it gives the directors and all that stuff to have more creativity to tell these stories of heroes from the comics. You know, you could have like what's it called, a Long Halloween, even though I know the Batman sort of would be like some kind of tease on that, but not really. We could have like a Long Halloween or like a Hush and just have it, but not have it affect this main storyline that we're following as well. And I think that's one thing I love about this so much, because with the MCU you don't really get a lot of that. And I think like labeling that Elseworlds and then separately labeling what is canon and what will be canon to this one continuity really helps provide the freedom to do the fun stuff while at the same time giving us this, you know, big saga type thing at the same time. I don't know. I think that's what my favorite part about this whole announcement is. The clarity of it all.
Yep. For sure. I like how they also said, Reeves said earlier this month when he was meeting with Gunn to ensure that the two would not, the Batverse and the larger DCU would support each other and not crash together in terms of storylines. So that means we're going to be kind of getting parallel running things that are not going to be impacting each other. So I want to get to...
like real quick, Joey, pause. I have to get my chargers and nozzle.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I'm just going to cut that little bit out.
Yes.
All right, ready? Check this out.
That'll be the one edit that's actually in it.
Okay, you ready? I want to say play, and I want you to introduce the camera when I say play, so that it looks like we just moved a bunch of stuff. It'll be so fun. Ready? Okay, 3, 2, 1, play! Look at
play!
that.
Woo! All right.
I said pause. Okay, keep going.
Whatever. The one thing that's going to lead into another little conversation here is that James Gunn kind of knows that the history of DC is messed up. He says in the quote, "As everybody here probably knows, the history of DC is pretty messed up. It was fucked up." Gunn said. Gunn name-checked TV series spearheaded by Greg Berlanti, like Arrow and The Flash, the feature films run by Zack Snyder until Whedon took over for Justice League, and then recent adaptations by Reeves, Gunn, and Safran themselves, as well as disappointments like Black Adam or Birds of Prey. No one was minding the mint. They were just giving away IP like they were party favorites to any creators that smiled at them. The article says the men understand that the DC projects which predate them are making for a weird story. They underscored how lucky they are with the last 4 that are coming out. But they also say the door is not closed on possible returns for Momoa's Aquaman or the character The Flash, who will have a solo film later this year starring the embattled Ezra Miller. I think it's very interesting to see that the way that they're navigating it, that they're putting importance on controlling what's coming out and making sure it serves the larger story and the larger narrative, but they're also being like, you know, there's some things that are going to carry over just because it's best that they carry over. It's the best for everything around.
Yeah.
With that, I do want to segue exactly into his comments on Ezra Miller, and then Zach Levi, because Zach Levi was talking about anti-vax stuff on Twitter this weekend. So
who's Zach Levi? And why should I care about
Shazam.
Oh, got it.
The main guy from Shazam. Safran said, Ezra is completely committed to their recovery, and we are fully supportive of that journey that they're on right now. When the time is right, when they feel like they're ready to have the discussion, we'll all figure out what the best path forward is. But right now, they are completely focused on their recovery, and in our conversations with them over the last couple of months, it feels like they're making enormous progress. Gunn said, I will say here that The Flash is probably one of the greatest superhero movies ever made.
I'm like, again with that comment. I'm playing.
But yeah, but then they say it resets everything, according to Gunn. He declined to spell out exactly how, but then it'll segue into Blue Beetle, which flows into Aquaman 2, which will then lead into a new Superman film.
Okay.
So that, and then hold your thoughts, and then let me get through Zach Levi,
okay.
and then we'll talk about the kind of a little bit of the backlash that also kind of talks with characters staying together and whatnot. Levi posted a retweet about a Twitter user who said, "Do you agree or not that Pfizer is a real danger to the world?" Levi posted, "Hardcore agree." This was interpreted by many users as anti-vax or anti-big pharma. It's going either way on Twitter, but James Gunn made time to address this. Just real simply, actors and filmmakers that I work with are going to say things that I agree with and things that I don't agree with. And that's going to happen. I don't have a list of things that somebody should say because of what I think. And I can't be changing my plans all the time because an actor says something that I don't agree with. By the same token, if somebody's doing something morally reprehensible, then that's a different story. We have to take all that stuff into account. It's a balance, it's a modern world, and it's a different place. It goes on to mention Letitia Wright also had comments like that. Yeah. But that never removed her from the
interfered film. Black Panther, yeah.
So
that makes sense.
I think it's a muddy situation that they're having to navigate here.
And like the Ezra Miller stuff was 10 times worse than anything exactly.
Well, I think that's also been some light has been shed on that to some degree. That some reports are saying that some of the allegations where he said she said things. I think Ezra has gone to court. He's obviously going through court mandated therapy. If the performance is so strong and the fan reaction to it is that strong, I can see why they're leaving it open-ended for them to continue. But I can also see it being, 3 years later, either a relapse happens or, not enough was talked about from his particular performance or their particular performance that you then go on and you recast a Flash. You maybe put in a different Flash. You talk that maybe that Flash story is, Wally pulling Barry out of the Speed Force or whatever the deal is, that then there's a way to do it that's still, if the movie is that good, that it gives credence to that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you kind of just answered the question yourself. I think it'd be cool to see, or not cool, but the easiest segue out of that would be to have, obviously they already filmed it, so who knows? Probably not. But to have Ezra's Flash, Barry go into the Speed Force, and have Wally just take the mantle up for this new generation, which honestly would resemble a lot of what we so loved about the DC animated shows back then with Justice League Unlimited and stuff. Have a character like Wally with that different personality, because I feel like often they've branded this Barry character to be more quirky and nerdy, and it's not entirely who he is in the comics either. Barry as a character,
yeah, Barry is more straight-laced in the comics, and Wally's more the Joker.
Yeah, and so I feel like I'd prefer to, I guess, have that fresh taste of have Wally be the front man for the Flash, and I think that's what they could do with the Flash movie, or have some way of not retconning, or I don't know, I guess having to get Ezra out of there, just because although I agree rehabilitation for Ezra is a good idea, or if the progress that they're making is good, fine, let them, but I don't know, that idea of like you said, relapse, what that could mean, because it's not like the stuff that he did was what they did is that light. I don't know. I wasn't keeping up with the cases, but yeah, the Shazam thing. Letitia Wright that had that. I loved Black Panther too. That didn't take away from my experience, and I think Gunn is coming from a place of his own experience with what happened with him and MCU and the Guardians and everything, and then everyone loved his work on the Suicide Squad. So then they're like, let's have you back. So I think he's kind of playing that card of like, okay, well, if what I did apparently in the long run didn't matter, not that it didn't matter, but it's like that it didn't ultimately have a long-term effect on his career with the MCU. Why should he be playing the same cards that in a way kind of almost put the MCU people. Yeah, because I mean, like, it's much more than just Zach Levi on the set of Shazam or et cetera, et cetera. So with Zach Levi's thing, I didn't even know this happened, but it's like, I guess I get where Gunn is coming from in that sense.
Yeah, for sure.
But like he also makes that statement, if they do something abhorrent that's like irredeemable, then that's fair. That's always fair game.
But it's also talking about like morally, like not somebody's opinions. It's talking about actual crimes. That's what's worth. And obviously that draws a line with Ezra, but then you're seeing therapy and progress. That it's a weird situation that he's inheriting that he's just trying to make the best of, I think.
No, yeah, I get what you mean. That's why I'm like with the whole Ezra thing. That's where I'm like, I feel like the safest card to play there is just get them out and have Wally take the mantle if you want to do like this whole Barry, like not wanting to recast the Barry or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's a very curious thing, and I don't like. That's why I was curious when we saw the slate. We see the Lanterns, we see a Wonder Woman thing, Batman, Superman. I think that's most of the core league that we see with that. So it's that curiosity of like, because the Flash, I feel like in recent years has taken on such a bigger role in the media. Like back in the day, everyone was like, oh, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, like that's the trio, and that's still the trio at heart. But I feel like a lot of fans nowadays have taken a lot of liking to Flash. I think mainly due to Grant Gustin's TV, The Flash, and like we have this whole generation of kids that grew up with that show that like the hero for that reason. So I think having a character as big as the Flash being handled by someone that may not exactly, I guess, be reliable later on. I don't know. It's a risky play, but
it's going to factor into their decision making for sure.
Yeah.
All right. One last note, and then I just want to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So the last little note here is just talking about the writers' room. They have talked about, hold on, let me throw this back up. I know you can see it, but they can't see it. So let's do a little that. Do that. All right. Obviously there was no announcements of writer or directors today outside of James Gunn being the one that's writing the Superman movie and talking about that scripts are being written and done with other things. And Viola Davis staying through all the way through. They left the door open for pretty much everybody outside of Henry to come back. And that's because Gal and Jason are obviously so iconic in their roles. And then Ezra and Zachary Levi are in movies that are coming out and kind of it's an ambiguous state. But otherwise, you're going to be casting new actors, which means new Batman, new Superman. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But to build the overarching story that they've kind of done this already. They've filmed or they've talked about roughly the 8 to 10 years in the future. But this first phase, and they're not sticking to it as like they're playing a little fast and loose with it, but they have a trajectory that they're going on. And the writer's room that was a part of that wasn't just Gunn and Safran, was Drew Goddard, who wrote The Martian. He also was the writer for the original seasons of Daredevil, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Jeremy Slater, who was the writer on Moon Knight. Christina Hobson, who wrote Flash, wrote Batgirl, also was a writer on Birds of Prey. Christal Henry wrote the Watchmen HBO series, and comics writer Tom King, who famously had a huge run on Batman, Mr. Miracle as the two DC characters, but also wrote Visions, which was a run that heavily impacted WandaVision. Some of these writers would continue working on DCU projects, including Christal Henry, who is co-show running Waller. They sat down in a room for a few days and started to bash out what the basic overall plan is. Not so much that it ties your wrist, but enough that we know what the basic story where we're going, and it's something we'll continue to do. The cadence is going to be roughly 2 films to 2 series per year. That output will not sacrifice quality. They were adamant that films and series will not go into production until scripts are finished, which is not the norm for pricey tentpoles that need to create awareness by planting flags on the calendar. The slate that the co-leads announced on Monday will run through 2027. So everything we talked about today will be through 2027, which is only 2 years, including 2 years from the Superman movie. So if they're starting in 2024, it'll run roughly 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, let's say 2024, we get maybe the Waller Superman, maybe a show alongside that. I mean, they said 2 movies, right? So maybe a Superman and the Authority. And
I think you'll get probably Superman and the Batman Part 2 would be 2020.
You're right. Totally forgot about that. I forgot that Elseworlds factors into that.
Then I think you would get 2026 would be presumably Lanterns would be 2025, 2026. I think those shows are going to release at a faster cadence than the films. I think you would then probably do the Authority and Batman, or Authority and the Brave and the Bold, and then you would do Supergirl and Swamp Thing. So then you're not loading too much up on Supergirl or Super People in the front half. You're then kind of spacing it out a little bit. I think the order that they talked about those movies is how they're going to be released. I think the shows is a little bit more ambiguous, but I think the shows are going to start earlier than the movies. So I think I think this list of 5 shows will be out before either Supergirl or Swamp Thing is out.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, and then the last year you just have Swamp Thing. You said it already. Yeah, makes sense. 2027.
All right, so
I think the last thing I would be worried about, or I guess in a sense, having a finished script before production does help on the whole delays thing, even though delays can always happen with actors and real world stuff. But hopefully this can guide us to a time with less delays or like ambiguity as to when things actually release.
I think that's true. I think it also, marketing schedules have totally changed in the last 2 years. I mean, No Way Home took less time to film than normally any superhero movie takes to film. Wasn't promoted until roughly 3 months before the film actually came out. I think but we're seeing the same thing now in 2023. We know Secret Invasion is supposed to be spring 2023 for Marvel. We saw one trailer that didn't have a date on it in October of last year. We haven't seen a single update since then. All of Disney Plus shows have roughly like seasonal dates on them, but no firm date attached. And I think that's trying to help things in the back end on the production side, that VFX gets done properly. But I'm glad that they're prioritizing quality. That's
100%.
That's what that statement reads to me, is that, we would like to have this cadence, so then we're in the pop culture, we're in what people are talking about. But what's more important to us is that everything we put out is going to be the quality.
100%. I feel like with good quality, you can always get people that are not fans of this kind of IP and bring them. I feel like with something like Lanterns, I could make my sister, who knows jack squat about DC, and still enjoy it just because of the way it's formatted, like True Detective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing I'm excited for, them playing around with these different genres and really letting that genre be the main premise. And though granted, the characters in the story and the narrative will push this world further, what's important is the project itself, instead of focusing overall on this whole long arcing thing. So I'm excited.
For sure. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for recording this with me. I appreciate it. You know me, this is a blast. You and I have talked about shit like this for years. Thank you to whoever has stuck around to the end of this very long podcast. There will be more like this in the future. The more stuff gets announced, we'll do writer breakdowns and director stuff and casting, and obviously reviews as the stuff comes out. But thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. This has been an episode of the Joey Plays Games podcast. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can see all the new YouTube shorts I've been putting out, as well as any other podcasts. We're gonna figure some stuff out to bring some of the Joey Plays Games podcast back. We may rename it. You've got to a DC centric podcast, and some other stuff. We may keep the Joey Plays Games for the general stuff, but that's all in the works. Comment your favorite announcement from today. What you're most excited for out of the 10 projects that were announced. Maybe who your dream casting is for some of these roles, your dream writer, dream director. Let me know. And I'm going to hit you back in the comments. I've been doing that since I started re-uploading again in January. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.